Liam and Amelia Harland seemed to have everything: a beautiful home, to bright children, and a life most people only dream of. But beneath their picture-perfect smiles hid something dark and silent. One night, as laughter filled their dining room and a glass of wine shimmered under soft light, the illusion shattered. Within hours, the perfect family everyone admired would be destroyed by the very man who built it. And it all began with one poisoned glass. The Harlands were the kind of family that everyone in Willow Creek admired. Liam Harland, a sharp and confident financial advisor, had a calm authority that made people trust him instantly. His wife, Amelia, owned a small art gallery near the riverfront, where her gentle nature and warmth drew people in as much as her paintings did. Together, they looked like the perfect couple: handsome, elegant, successful. Their two children, Clara and Owen, completed the picture of domestic bliss. Clara, 16, was a quiet girl who poured her emotions into piano music, while 12-year-old Owen was a curious boy who loved science and built small inventions out of scrap metal in the garage. Their home stood on Maple Avenue, surrounded by bright flowers, trimmed hedges, and a white fence that gleamed under the sun. On weekends, the family could often be seen washing their car together, or setting up a picnic table in their backyard while music drifted softly through open windows. To anyone passing by, they seemed untouchable, happy, organized, and deeply bonded. But perfection, as always, comes with cracks to find for the world to see. Liam's life revolved around control. He liked his clothes arranged by color, his meals served on time, and his accounts balanced to the last cent. When something fell out of order, it made him restless. Amelia, on the other hand, was free-spirited. She painted without rules, laughed loudly, and spent her days surrounded by color and light. Their marriage had once thrived on that balance, his structure against her spontaneity. But over the years, it had turned into quiet tension. Liam's need for control clashed with Amelia's desire for peace. Still, they kept up appearances. Every Sunday, they sat together at the local cafe, sharing coffee and smiles that didn't always reach their eyes. Their neighbors, unaware of the growing distance, would wave and comment on how perfect the Harlands were. They were the couple others wanted to be, the family others wanted to have. Amelia had begun to feel something changing. The warmth in their home had faded. Liam had become distant, often locking himself in his office for long hours. When she asked about it, he would simply say he was working on something important. The tension between them grew unspoken, but heavy, filling the space between their smiles. Clara, though young, noticed the silence that lingered at the dinner table and the way her mother's eyes sometimes seemed tired, searching for comfort in places that weren't their. Then came the day that changed everything. Liam received a call that would spark celebration: a long-awaited promotion, a new position that came with wealth and recognition. For the first time in months, his face lit up with pride. He decided they would host a small dinner party to celebrate. Amelia agreed, thinking it might bring some happiness back into their lives. The invitations were sent, the table was set, and laughter would soon fill the house again. But hidden beneath the polished glasses and golden lights was something no one could see coming. A single glass, waiting on the dining table, would become the silent witness to a tragedy that would destroy the illusion of perfection forever. The evening of the celebration arrived, with golden light spilling through the windows of the Harland home. The smell of roasted herbs, baked bread, and red wine filled the air. Amelia moved gracefully between the kitchen and dining room, arranging plates and lighting candles while trying to push away the unease that had been haunting her for weeks. For once, she wanted peace, a night that might remind her of the family she used to have. Liam appeared calm and composed, dressed in a dark suit that matched his polished demeanor. His eyes reflected quiet satisfaction, the expression of a man who believed he had finally won. Guests began to arrive just as the sun began to fade. Close friends, neighbors, and a few of Liam's colleagues stepped into the house, each greeted by Amelia's warmth and Liam's firm handshake. Laughter quickly spread through the rooms. Glasses clinked. Music played softly in the background. To everyone watching, it was a perfect evening, a family celebrating success and unity. No one could sense the darkness that lingered beneath the surface on the long dining table. Crystal glasses gleamed under the chandelier's glow. Liam brought out a rare bottle of wine, one he claimed to have saved for years. The label was foreign, elegant, and expensive. He told everyone it was for special occasions only. Amelia smiled and accepted the gesture, unaware of what that bottle truly represented. She filled the glasses for their guests, the deep red liquid swirling like velvet under the warm light. Clara excused herself politely, reminding her mother about her piano competition the next morning. She filled her glass with sparkling water instead, leaving the untouched wine in front of her empty seat. Dinner unfolded beautifully. Conversation flowed easily, laughter echoed through the room, and Liam soaked in the admiration of those around him. He spoke about his new position, about ambition and hard work, and how grateful he was for his supportive family. Every word sounded genuine. Every smile seemed sincere. As the night deepened, the laughter grew louder, and Amelia's eyes softened as she glanced at her children. For a brief moment, she felt content again. When Liam raised his glass for a final toast, everyone joined in. He spoke of love, success, and the strength of family. The glasses met in the air with a gentle chime, a sound that would later haunt everyone who heard it. By the time the guests began to leave, the Harland home had quieted. The night had turned calm and cool, the streets outside silent except for the whisper of wind. Liam offered to clean up, urging Amelia to rest. She agreed, though her head felt heavy. She moved slowly toward the kitchen, her hands trembling slightly. Within minutes, dizziness overtook her. The room began to spin, her vision blurred, and her glass slipped from her fingers. Shattering across the marble counter, Liam found her collapsed beside the broken glass, her body motionless, her lips pale. To the world, it would appear as though her heart had failed her, a tragic, sudden death on a night meant for joy. But the glass that lay beside her told a different story, one that no one would understand until it was too late. The morning after Amelia's death brought a silence that felt unnatural. The house that once echoed with life now stood hollow and still. Liam called emergency services, his voice trembling just enough to sound believable. When the paramedics arrived, they found Amelia lifeless on the kitchen floor, her head resting near the shattered glass. The conclusion was quick and easy, perhaps a stroke, maybe cardiac arrest. After all, there were no visible wounds, no signs of violence. To most, it looked like an accident, but Detective Maren Cross wasn't convinced. Maren had seen countless domestic tragedies, but something about this one seemed staged. She noticed the way Liam moved, to careful, to composed. While the family cried, he answered questions calmly, even managing to maintain eye contact. She found the wine bottle on the counter, standing upright, half empty, and unnaturally spotless. When she picked it up with her gloved hands, she saw faint smudges that looked recently wiped away. A routine autopsy was ordered, though Liam insisted it wasn't necessary. Days later, the toxicology report came back with a discovery that shifted everything. Amelia's bloodstream contained traces of a powerful sedative, one that could cause dizziness, collapse, and even death when mixed with alcohol. The dosage wasn't accidental, it was deliberate. Detective Cross began digging deeper into Liam's background. On paper, he was the picture of success, a stable career, no criminal history, a loving family. But beneath that clean surface were signs of growing financial distress. His firm had been quietly investigating him for discrepancies in client accounts. Debt collectors had been calling his office, and the promotion he celebrated wasn't exactly what he had claimed it was. In fact, a lateral move meant to keep him away from sensitive company finances. The more Maren learned, the less Liam resembled the grieving husband he pretended to be. His search history showed repeated visits to pharmaceutical sites and articles about sedatives. He had recently filled a prescription for the exact drug found in Amelia's system. When questioned about it, he explained it was for insomnia. Still, Maren could sense the cracks forming in his story. Neighbors began to recall strange things: 2 arguments late at night, Amelia crying quietly in her car, and Liam's temper when things didn't go his way. None of it was enough for an arrest, but it built a chilling portrait of control and manipulation. Meanwhile, the children were left shattered. Clara barely spoke. Owen, confused and frightened, kept asking when his mother would come home. Liam comforted them with mechanical gentleness, but even they sensed something wrong in his tone. A week after the funeral, Maren revisited the house for a second inspection. She looked at the wine glasses, still sitting in the cabinet, each neatly washed. But when she lifted the one that had shattered, its broken edges showed faint residue that matched the sedative. It was proof that Amelia had ingested the drug through her drink. Maren knew then that this wasn't a tragedy, it was a murder carefully dressed as one. What she didn't yet know was why. And as she stared at Liam's framed family photo on the mantel, she realized the motive might be hidden behind those perfect smiles, just waiting to be uncovered. Clara had always admired her parents' love story. She grew up believing her family was unbreakable, a symbol of warmth and safety in a world that often felt uncertain. But after her mother's death, everything changed. The house that once felt alive now seemed haunted by silence. Liam tried to keep things normal, cooking breakfast, driving them to school, even laughing at the dinner table, but nothing about him felt real anymore. His eyes looked empty, his words rehearsed, and Clara couldn't ignore the way he avoided her gaze whenever her mother's name came up. She spent nights sitting in her mother's art studio, surrounded by half-finished canvases and the faint scent of paint. It was there she felt closest to Amelia, tracing the strokes her mother once made, imagining her voice. One evening, while organizing Amelia's things, Clara found an unfinished letter hidden between two sketchbooks. The letter began tenderly but shifted into unease. Amelia had written about growing tension with Liam, about feeling watched, about fearing something she couldn't explain. The last line read like a warning. Sometimes, the person you think you know best is the one you should fear the most. The words unsettled Clara. She started paying closer attention to her father's behavior. Liam's late nights grew more frequent. He spent long hours in his home office with the door locked, whispering into the phone, always lowering his voice when she came near. Once, she heard him pacing in the garage at 2 a.m., muttering to himself. He wasn't grieving, he was hiding something. Driven by suspicion, Clara decided to search his office while he was at work. Her hands trembled as she unlocked the drawer with a pin, her heart racing with guilt and fear. Inside, she found neat stacks of papers, financial records, insurance documents, and a folder labeled private accounts. What she saw next froze her in place. Multiple insurance policies under Amelia's name, all recently updated, with Liam listed as the sole beneficiary. The total payout exceeded $1 million. Even more disturbing, Amelia's signature on one of the forms looked forged to stiff, to perfect. Not her handwriting. As she kept searching, Clara found a small box tucked behind old tax files. Inside was another wine bottle, identical to the one used on the night of the celebration. The cork was sealed, but a faint powdery residue clung to the glass near the rim. It wasn't dust, it was chemical. Her mind flashed to the memory of that night, the way her mother had stumbled, the spilled wine, the shattered glass. The realization hit her like a storm. Her father hadn't lost his wife, he had planned her death. At the bottom of the box lay a small folded paper written in her mother's handwriting. It read, "If anything happens to me, tell the truth. Trust no one who pours your glass." The message confirmed her worst fear. Shaking, Clara backed away from the desk. She knew she couldn't stay silent. Her father's charm had fooled the world, but she had seen behind it. The next morning, she took the note, the bottle, and the documents straight to Detective Maren Cross. The illusion of the perfect family was gone forever. What remained was a chilling secret buried beneath lies, waiting for justice to rise from the quiet ruin of their once perfect home. Detective Maren Cross studied the evidence Clara brought her, every piece connecting like fragments of a cruel puzzle. The insurance papers, the residue on the wine bottle, the secret accounts, all pointed to a deliberate, calculated plan. Liam Harland had murdered his wife for money and freedom, believing he could outsmart everyone, including his own daughter. What he didn't know was that his perfect mask had already begun to crumble. A warrant was issued to search the Harland residence once more. Forensics swept through the house, finding traces of the sedative on the kitchen counter, in the sink drain, and even on the corkscrew used that night. It was undeniable now Amelia hadn't died by accident. She had been poisoned. When Liam was questioned again, he tried to maintain his composure, but his calm facade began to falter under Maren's quiet pressure. She laid out the evidence one piece at a time until his silence spoke louder than denial ever could. But before the arrest could be made, Liam vanished. He emptied his accounts, abandoned his car near a cliffside, and disappeared into the wilderness. Authorities assumed he had taken his own life to escape prosecution. The case seemed to end with that conclusion, leaving Clara and Owen to rebuild their lives with the haunting thought that justice would never be served. Yet Maren couldn't shake the feeling that Liam was still alive. A man as methodical as him wouldn't end things that easily. Weeks passed, then months. The headlines faded, and Willow Creek returned to its quiet routines. Until one crisp autumn morning, hikers stumbled upon a hidden campsite deep in the national forest's tattered clothing. Empty food cans, a small fire pit, and a wristwatch engraved with Liam's initials. It wasn't the scene of a suicide. It was the setup of a man in hiding. The search reignited instantly. After tracking purchases made using cash and security footage from small-town stores, authorities traced him to a remote cabin 3 states away. He was living under the name David Harland, blending in among locals, pretending to be a widower who had lost his family in a car crash. When officers finally surrounded the cabin, Liam didn't resist. He stepped outside quietly, hands raised. His expression cold and empty. The trial that followed captured the nation's attention. Prosecutors presented the poisoned wine glass, the sedative prescription, and the insurance fraud. Clara testified with remarkable strength, her voice steady as she described the lies her father had built and the fear that consumed their home. Liam showed no remorse, only the arrogance of a man who thought he was too clever to be caught. The verdict was swift: guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life without parole. After the conviction, the Harland home was sold, its perfect facade now tainted by the tragedy it concealed. Neighbors still spoke of it in whispers, calling it the house of the poisoned glass. Clara and Owen moved away, carrying with them the memory of a mother who had loved them deeply and the truth that had destroyed their illusion of perfection. In the end, one glass had exposed everything a marriage built on lies, a father's greed and a daughter's courage. The story of the Harlands became a chilling reminder that evil can hide behind kindness, and sometimes all it takes to reveal it is a single glass raised in celebration.